capacity.
2025. A catastrophic weather event unfolded across northern China as torrential downpours triggered widespread and devastating floods throughout large swaths of Shaanxi and Hebei provinces. This extreme weather system delivered an unprecedented amount of rainfall in a remarkably short period, causing rivers to overflow their banks, breach critical levees, and unleash destructive power upon countless homes and vital infrastructure. The scale of the deluge was immense, leaving a trail of destruction that would test the limits of emergency response and community resilience. Among the most severely impacted regions were Wuqi County, located in the northern part of Shaanxi province, and numerous cities and rural communities scattered across the vast expanse of Hebei. In Wuqi County, the rainfall reached a terrifying peak, with a record-shattering 320 millimeters, approximately 12.6 inches documented in just a 12-hour window. This immense volume of water rapidly overwhelmed the Beiluo River, a major waterway that winds through the region. The river swelled at an alarming rate, its levels rising far beyond its maximum capacity, placing immense and unsustainable pressure on the earthen levees that lined its banks. The inevitable eventually occurred as the river's defenses gave way. The surging water first overtopped, and then violently breached the embankments, sending a furious torrent of floodwater cascading through the county. The town center of Wuqi was inundated with terrifying speed. Muddy, debris-filled floodwaters transformed streets into raging rivers, submerging vehicles, sweeping away everything in their path, and leaving many residential neighborhoods completely isolated and surrounded by the rising tide. The situation was further complicated by reports that several dams in the upstream areas had commenced emergency water discharges, allegedly without sufficient or widespread public notification. Release of massive volumes of water exacerbated the downstream flooding. Compounding this critical situation, at least one dam was reported to have failed entirely, unleashing an uncontrollable and destructive surge of water that swept through the lower valleys with little to no warning. For residents in low-lying areas, the rapidly rising waters caught them completely by surprise, turning a night of heavy rain into a desperate struggle for survival. Emergency rescue forces were immediately mobilized and scrambled to respond to the escalating crisis, deploying personnel, heavy machinery, and specialized equipment to assist in urgent evacuations, construct temporary flood barriers, and attempt to restore some limited degree of movement in the stricken areas. Officials from the Wuqi County Emergency Management Bureau confirmed that intensive and full-scale flood rescue operations were underway, battling against time and the relentless elements. Meanwhile, in the neighboring province of Hebei, the rainfall was equally intense and far-reaching. Across the province, a network of rivers and reservoirs began to exceed their capacities and spill over their banks. The urban drainage systems in many cities, unequipped for such an extreme event, quickly collapsed under the sheer volume of water, leading to severe urban waterlogging. Flash floods, powerful and unpredictable, tore through both quiet rural villages and densely populated urban districts alike. Baoding, a major city in Hebei, was among the hardest hit urban centers, but the devastation was by no means isolated. Surrounding counties, including the historically significant Yixia, as well as Leishui and Zhuzhou, also reported perilous flooding conditions that threatened lives and property. The human toll of the disaster was brought into sharp focus in places like Titan Village, located within Wuqi County. There, the situation grew increasingly dire as floodwaters surged to life-threatening levels, forcing desperate residents to climb onto their rooftops to escape the deluge. One villager recounted the harrowing experience of being jolted awake in the middle of the night by the thunderous roar of rushing water. As he attempted to flee his home, he discovered that the water level inside had already risen to over 2 meters, approximately 6.5 feet, trapping him and his family. Many others in his community remained stranded, anxiously awaiting the arrival of rescue boats and external assistance. The floods also inflicted a crippling blow to the region's infrastructure. In Yazikan, a village in the town of Anyang within Shaanxi County, a critical bridge that served as the main artery for the community collapsed in the early hours of Friday morning. This bridge, a steadfast structure for more than 2 decades, was the only viable route for large vehicles to enter or exit the village. Its collapse effectively severed the community's primary supply line, leaving residents able to traverse the area only by motorcycle or on foot through narrow, precarious paths. Elsewhere throughout Hebei, villages reported extensive damage to roads, the ruin of vast tracts of agricultural land, and the collapse of numerous houses whose foundations were weakened and washed away by the persistent inundation. Crops that were ready for harvest were submerged and destroyed, representing a devastating economic loss for the local farming communities. In the face of this multi-faceted crisis, rescue teams worked tirelessly around the clock. Their efforts were focused on repairing breached levees, clearing clogged drainage channels to alleviate localized flooding, and distributing essential supplies such as food and clean drinking water to the many isolated and cut-off areas. These vital relief efforts were further complicated by widespread power outages and disruptions to communication networks, which proved to be a significant hindrance, particularly in the more remote and mountainous regions where access was already difficult. According to data released by water management authorities, at least 15 rivers in the broader affected region had risen above their official warning levels.
各位乘客，涿州市交通运输局到了，请您从后门下车。下车请刷卡或刷码。车门处的乘客，请。
Several of these major waterways were continuing to rise, fed by ongoing rainfall and the continued discharge of water from upstream dams. Amid the chaos, many residents and independent analysts voiced growing concern that a lack of coordinated management and transparent communication regarding the dam discharges may have significantly worsened the severity and impact of the flooding in downstream communities, turning a natural disaster into a compounded catastrophe.